Okay, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time during tonight's team call giving out different examples of different foods and things like that that you can eat, because there are tons and tons. There are Pinterest pages. There are Pinterest pages. There are Facebook pages. There are Instagram pages. There are many, 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 many resources out there that can give you sample recipes and meal ideas and things like that. And I just don't think that that'll be a very good use of our time tonight. However, if you're not sure where to find these resources, let me know and I'll send you a link or friend you on Pinterest and we can share boards, or we can do the same thing on Instagram. I can tag you in some Instagram posts. So the way that 2B Mindset works is for each desired meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, you have a plate. And in each plate, you have a certain proportion of the different food groups. Other diet plans teaches about a different arrangement. It's the same food, they're just arranged slightly different into different food groups. So the 4 food groups, and if you see me looking down, I want to make sure I'm giving you the right notes and the right numbers. There's a lot of them. So the 4 food groups are your proteins, your veggies, your accessories, and your carbs. So first, we're going to start talking about our veggies, because veggie is number 1 and everything should be veggies most. So when you think of veggies, you're going to basically try to have veggies at every meal and snack, including breakfast if possible. It's not a requirement in your breakfast plate, but it's extra bonus points because these breakfast veggies are just going to have additional fiber, which is just going to help you stay fuller longer. So the veggies are what you're going to eat the most of. You want to make sure that the vegetables that you're eating have a lot of water and a lot of fiber and low carbs. Things like cucumbers, things like celery, things like cabbages. You can eat a lot of these vegetables because they're full of water, they're full of fiber, and they're very low calorie. You want to make sure that when you're buying vegetables that you buy those that are snackable. And what I mean by snackable veggies are the sweet peppers, the snap peas, the broccoli, the carrots, anything that you can take in its raw state and package or bag so that if you get hungry, this is what you grab. This is what you go for. And I know a lot of you may be like me and think, well, if I bite into a carrot, I'm going to leave half of my teeth there. Get you a small microwavable safe glass container, put in 2 tablespoons of water, add your veggies, pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and they're slightly steamed. They're much more softer and much more delicious because the flavor kind of boils up out of them. And then you'll be able to eat them like that. Anytime that you have a base, a hamburger bun, a noodle, rice, pasta, anything like that, try to sub out those carbs for vegetables. Wrap your burger in lettuce. Use cauliflower rice instead of regular rice. Don't you know that as opposed to eating 1 cup of even brown rice, you can actually have 10 cups of cauliflower rice, and that's going to leave you feeling full and satisfied and low calorie, and you won't have consumed a whole lot of carbs. You also want to make sure that your vegetables are the biggest portion of your meal for breakfast. You're going to have your plate. Let me just go back. So for breakfast, you're going to have 50-50. Half of your meal is going to be vegetables. At lunchtime, you're going to have 50-25-25. Half of your meal is going to be vegetables. For dinner, you're going to have 75-25. So that is, again, 75% vegetables and 25% protein. I'm going to wait and save the questions to the end just so I can get through all the material, and then we'll come back for the Q&A. So that is veggies. Veggies most, you want to make sure you have snackable veggies, and you want to make sure that you substitute when you can your sides or your breads or your pastas for vegetables. The second food group is your protein. Proteins leave you feeling full and satisfied. Some great options of protein are eggs, your low-fat dairy, chicken, turkey, even rotisserie chicken, grilled chicken, the pre-made chicken strips and chicken breasts, all of those, chicken thighs, chicken drumsticks, ground turkey, even red meat is a great source of protein. The only thing to be careful with when you're looking at your protein for red meat is just making sure that you get a lean cut of meat. Make sure that when you're buying it, that there's not a lot of fat on it and it's more protein than fat. If you're not sure if your food item is going to be more of a protein as opposed to like an accessory, look at the grams on the back of it and see, does it have more protein in it than fat? If it has more protein, then this is a great source of protein. If it has more fat in it, then it would be more like an accessory. You can do that with cheese. You can do that with yogurt. You can do that with certain meats. Veggie burgers, that's also another great source of protein. You just want to make sure that when you're getting a veggie burger, that it has the vegetables in it. One way to make sure of that is that it has at least 10 grams of protein. If it doesn't have at least 10 grams of protein, chances are it's stocked full of carbohydrates and you're getting very little protein from that veggie burger. You may just want to try a different brand, or, play around with some alternatives like tofu or tempeh or things like that. So that's your second food group, which is protein. Your third food group is going to be your carbs. Carbs are broken into two different groups. You have your fiber-filled carbs, which are your FFCs, and then you have your silly carbs. These are your carbs that don't really contain a lot of nutrients. However, it's still considered a carbohydrate. Some of the fiber-filled carbs are things like potatoes and corn and wheat and fruit and rice and beans and berries. And I know you may be thinking, fruit? Well, isn't fruit more of a food group of its own? It is. However, fruits are very, very high in carbohydrates because carbohydrates eventually transform into sugars. Even bread, when it breaks down into your body, those carbohydrates transform into sugars. And that's the exact same thing that fruit does. So when people say that they're on low carb, low fat diets, but then they eat a lot of fruit, it's kind of like, are you really? Because the fruit is also very high in carbohydrates. So the other group of carbs are your silly carbs. You don't want to eat a whole lot of the silly carbs. Your silly carbs have little to no fiber in them at all. These are like beer, wine, alcohol, cookies, crackers, cupcake. Those things are very, very, very low in fiber, but usually high in calorie. I'm not saying don't drink beer. Drink beer, but when you think about beer as being liquid bread. You want to think of wine as being liquid grapes. You want to think as alcohol as being liquid grains, and you just want to be smart instead of silly when you're indulging in these carbohydrates. And again, there is really no, we'll get to the part on as far as serving sizes in just a second. The last piece that we want to discuss are the accessories. These are going to be anything that you would add to your food to give it flavor or to season it or to make it tender or to really bring out the flavor of the foods themselves. This would be things like your mustard, your mayonnaise, your olive oil, your cheese, since I know we have a cheese lover with us, your butter, your dressings, your salsa, your ketchups, your salts, and your sugars. These are your accessories. You only want to use them to help flavor your food. You don't want to just sit there and indulge in a spoonful of peanut butter or a spoonful of olive oil, or they wouldn't be considered meals in and of themselves. They should be more of accessories to your main meal. So now that very quickly I've gone through each of the 4 different food groups, we've got carbs, we've got proteins, we've got veggies, and we've got accessories. We're going to talk about what each plate should look like. And before I get into that, I'm actually going to share my screen with you guys so that I can reference back to what is available to you in Beachbody On Demand. If you ever need to reference back to any of this material and you need to like refresh, like, oh my God, what makes up breakfast? Or, oh my God, what should my portion be for lunch? What should my portion be for dinner? There really is no portion control, I guess you could say, in 2B Mindset. If you're wondering how much to eat, start with a serving size. So some examples for breakfast would be like some turkey bacon and some egg. Your breakfast should consist of 50% FFCs and 50% protein. And then if you want to throw a few vegetables in there for bonus, you can. But make sure that you have 50% protein, 50% fiber-filled carbs for your breakfast. So you may be asking, well, how much fiber-filled carbs can I have? Or how much protein can I have? Start with a serving. So if you start with a serving of turkey bacon, which is 2 to 4 slices, and you start with 2 slices of toast.
Jan.
Okay, is everybody good? Thumbs up. I'm not sure what happened. My connection like just completely went out. Okay. So again, servings of bacon or servings of toast. Start with the regular serving size. If you decide that's not enough, add another slice. If you decide that's not enough toast, add another toast. Just make sure that you keep it proportionate to be 50% protein, 50% fiber-fueled carbs, and you track it. Worst case, you'll find out it makes no difference by adding that extra piece of toast or that additional piece of bacon. You'll be weighing yourself daily. You'll be writing down exactly what you need to eat. And that is what's going to tell you whether you need to cut back or you need to add more to your diet. The second meal of the day is going to be lunch. And I've already messed up because the first thing that you're going to have with every meal is your 16 ounces of water. So for lunch, you're going to start with 16 ounces of water. And then the divisions of the food group for lunch should be 25% FFCs, 25% protein, and 50% veggies. So a good balanced example of lunch would be rice, chicken, and then broccoli and cheese. So you can have a full serving of broccoli, maybe 2 or 3 crowns worth of broccoli. Sprinkle you a little cheese on it, have you a nice 4 to 6 ounces of chicken breast, and then add some rice. If you decide, you know what, I want to have a little bit more, add more veggies first before you decide to increase your quantity of chicken. Maybe 4 ounces of chicken is too much. Have 6, but write it down. Because that's what's going to tell you whether or not you will be able to see weight loss by going from 4 ounces of chicken to 6 ounces of chicken. Your next meal is going to be your dinner. First thing, 16 ounces of water. Your proportions for dinner is 75% vegetables and 25% protein. So again, you may fix a nice full salad full of vegetables. You may have spinach and cucumbers and red onions and carrots and all kinds of things in there. And feel free to accessorize with sunflower seeds or crunchy veggies or anything like that, olives. And then add your dressing. And then you would have a nice 4 ounce of salmon or 4 ounces of steak or 4 ounces of chicken. And that's your proportions for dinner. Your snack should consist only of veggies. Have as much or as big of a snack that you want, but make sure that it is 100% veggies. If you find, because your snack will be given after lunch before dinner, because that's your longest span, because you won't eat anything after dinner. If you find that you have a big night, for instance, you may be like, well, I get off of work at 5, but I have got to go walking or I've got to go work a second job and I won't get home to 10. I'll have my dinner at 10, but I need something to hold me over. Veggies by themselves won't get it. Then back up your proportions and do half veggies, half protein. If you decide you need something a little bit more, then go back again to your proportions and do half veggies, a quarter protein, and a quarter of carbs. You're just going to proportionally add back the exact same proportions that you eat throughout the day if you need to introduce a snack into your evening between your lunch and dinner. Make sure that whatever snack you're eating is around 150 to 200 calories, because once you get outside of that range, you basically had another meal. If it's going to be too late, then just pack your dinner and bring it with you, and then you can eat your snack before you go to bed, if that works better into your schedule. The idea is we don't want to be snacking all the time. We want to eat healthy, nutritious, filling meals full of food They're not restricted. They're not put down to portions. Full of vegetables. We're going to be drinking water. So we should have enough nutrients from our meals that we don't need to constantly snack, because it's when we start snacking that we get ourselves in trouble. So let me just share my screen real quick, just so I can show with you guys where you would go in your library to find this information. So you are going to log on to Beachbody On Demand. Eventually, I will get into Beachbody On Demand. And then you're going to go to the nutrition section. And this is available to everyone. We've already passed the early release for 2B Mindset. It is a part of the entire program. So anyone with access to BOD should have access to the 2B Mindset program. Under the nutrition, I want to say 2B Mindset. Here we go. 2B Mindset. Here. Okay, so once you click on the 2B Mindset tab, you will have an overview, which just gives you a general idea of how the program works. Then you will have your videos, and then you will have your resources. In your video section is where Alana, the person who developed this entire program, has recorded very, very short videos about everything that I just talked about. She goes into much more detail, and she also gives you some additional information that'll help you when you're going out to eat, when you're going to the grocery store, when you're, you get an unexpected invitation at lunch or anything like that. She kind of shows you how to navigate in those tricky situations where you may be presented a plate. It may not be a plate that you prepared, but where you're presented a plate and you're not real sure what the portions are. You're not real sure if it's 50, 25, or 25%. She sort of teaches you things to look for to be a food investigator, to be able to identify exactly what portion of your meal is protein, which portion is veggies, and which portion is FFCs. So this right here, and I don't know what is going on with my computer. So we may have to come back to this because I am literally just spinning a colorful wheel of circle. While this is spinning, let me just go ahead. Well, hold on, maybe I can go. Here we go. Okay, so under the resources section, here's your tracker. This is where you would get the pages that I showed you the other day that has just all the sheets where you can put in your meals, you can write in how you feel, and you can fill in your weight for the day. And if we come on down in our meal planning, there's a plated recap. And here it shows you the exact breakouts of the food groups that you should have. Here's your 50-50 breakfast. You're going to have your 50-25-25 for your lunch. And then for your dinner, over here to the right, you're going to have 75-25. So this is just a quick, safe little go-to guide that will have all the information that you need on it. I will probably save, just because you can find this on, it's not secret. You can find this on Pinterest. I think I found it on Pinterest earlier today. So I'll save it in the file section of the group and call it 2B Mindset Plated Recap. And this will just be a nice and easy go-to. So if you're not sure what portions of meals or whatever it is you should have at each meal, you can use this as kind of a backup just to confirm how much of each food group you should be eating at the different meal times. So that is pretty much all I had for tonight. I'm going back through my notes just to make sure that I covered everything. And I think I did. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and open the line for questions. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then let me unmute everyone. Okay, maybe it's not working. Well, I thought I was unmuting everyone.